Donald Trump, Cries, Seeing Black Beggar, and the Millionaire secret Elon Musk never forgot. It was a freezing winter afternoon, the kind that bites through every layer until your skin feels raw. Downtown, where the city buzzed with cars and hurried feet, Donald Trump stood near a crowded Starbucks, wrapped in his signature thick coat. His breath hitched, not from the cold, but from what he saw. A black woman, sitting slumped against the wall. Her clothes torn and soaked through. Knotted, shredded gloves barely covering her rough hands. Her eyes, dark pools that held stories, but sparkled with a strange strength. She shivered, shoulders shaking like dry leaves in a storm. People walked by without a glance, mouths tight, faces turned away. Donald's usual iron mask cracked for a split second, his chest clenched, heart pounding unevenly. It wasn't just the sight. A million declines flashed between them, decades stacked like bricks. Suddenly, the city noise dimmed, his surroundings blurred like a fading photograph. She looked up. Claire. That name echoed sharp inside his head, like a distant thunderclap. Was it a trick? Did fate really drag this moment to him now? Whispers swirled among the crowd, caught like sparks in the freezing air. Isn't that Trump? What's he doing there? Eyes wide, cameras ready. Reporters inching closer, hungry for scandal. A former aide lurked in the shadows, clutching a file thick with secrets, the kind that could topple empires. Claire's voice cut through the growing tension, calm but firm. You don't remember me, do you? Her words struck deeper than any headline ever could. Donald's hand trembled, palm sweaty, face flushing red, not from embarrassment, but fear. Memories clawed their way out of hidden chambers, fragments of a past buried beneath towers and gold. Moments shared, invisible to all but them. The hatred and hope that bridged their worlds. Elon Musk had once whispered about a strange truth Trump never dared speak of. A secret tied to a night neither of them could erase. Now it spilled out in the bitter cold, binding them tighter than prestige or poverty. Claire's eyes pierced through the faux walls he'd built. She wasn't just a stranger or a statistic. She was a mirror, reflecting everything he tried to hide. And in her resilience, he saw a flicker of something fragile and fierce. Yet the shadow grew longer. That former aide, eyes cold as steel, ready to unleash wreckage. The tension twisted tighter. Would Donald protect his empire or dive into a truth that might break him? Would Claire find strength to face her demons as their lives collided like crashing waves? The street held its breath. The city watched. But the secret buried in silence waited to explode. And in that moment, both would have to decide. Cling to safe lies or confront the chaos waiting just beneath. What was that secret? How far would it go? And could their unexpected bond survive the storm coming? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The street held its breath. The city watched, but the secret, buried in silence, waited to explode. Donald's hand still trembled. Claire's piercing gaze locked onto his. Moments dragged like eternity. And then a loud crash shattered the stillness. A nearby shop window exploded, glass raining down like confetti, sending people scrambling. Screams pierced the air. Panic surged through the crowd, a wave of fear that sent hearts racing. Donald instintible doque, instintos quicando, su mente se le ponía en movimiento. Caos eruptía alrededor. Bodies pushed en ama terrificada. Los ojos de Claire se expandieron al interior. Sabían qué estaba pasando. El aire se tumbó con el obvio, pero no fue un ataque. Fue un hombre con la boceta animando, pegando material con él de repente. He yelled, voice breaking. They know. Please, help. His gaze darted, frantic, scanning for someone to latch onto. The crowd hesitated, murmurs bubbling up like boiling water. What's going on? Is he dangerous? Claire took a step forward, an act of courage that seemed to defy the instinct to run. Hey, what do you mean they're coming for you? Her voice cracked through the chaos, firm yet gentle. The man's breath hitched. I saw them. The truth. It's all connected. Trump! His eyes landed on Donald, and his fear morphed into desperation. You have to listen. You don't even know. Donald froze, a chill creeping through him deeper than the cold. The chaos around them blurred. What are you talking about? He asked, voice low but intense. The man stumbled closer, wild hair flopping. The secrets! Hidden from everyone. You're tied to it all! He pointed a shaking finger. Claire knows! Gasps rolled through the onlookers. A rush of whispers ignited. Could they be referring to Claire? Donald's breath caught in his throat. Claire shifted, face pale, as past and present tangled in the air like storm clouds. What secrets? Donald's voice was a rasp, a distant echo of the man's panic. Claire looked between them, eyes narrowing. What are you saying? She stepped in front of Donald instinctively, protective. The man laughed, a sound sharp and crazed. The $1 million deals, the lies, the ones who fall through the cracks. Claire, you've been carrying it all these years. Donald's heart dropped. He could feel the color drain from his face. Was there more to Claire's story? More than just fate brought them together on this frozen street? The former aide watched from the shadows, eyes glinting like daggers. He stepped forward, likely to control the situation, but a shout broke through. Another crash echoed as police sirens wailed in the distance. Tension soared, limbs tightened. Stay back, he yelled, panic spilling out as he pushed between them. The crowd surged again, jostling against the chaos. But it was too late. Claire grabbed Donald's hand, squeezing so tight it hurt. We need to go, she shouted. Fear tightened in Donald's chest. He glanced at the man, the weight of knowledge both a burden and a lifeline. The sirens grew closer, threatening to pull them into a storm neither was ready for. Will you trust me? Claire cried, desperation spilling into her voice. In that moment, the connection between the three ignited like a match in dry grass. Secrets dangled in the air, heavy and dangerous. Would they unravel them together? Or would the shadows consume them? Chaos swirled, And as they turned to escape, a gunshot rang out, a solid crack against the sound of city life. Everything changed. The street held its breath. The chilly air stilled. A charged moment where time seemed to crumble. Donald's heart pounded like a drum, every beat a reminder of shadowy memories clawing for release. Claire's eyes were steady, unyielding, like a lighthouse in a storm. But then, a deafening sound cut through the silence. A loud bang echoed. A dumpster overturned, clattering like thunder. People turned, startled, eyes darting. Panic rippled through the crowd. Just a few feet away, a figure emerged from the shadows, clutching something shiny. "Get down!" a gruff voice boomed. Chaos erupted. People screamed, scattering in every direction. Donald instinctively reached for Claire, pulling her close. But in the frenzy, fear morphed into something darker. The figure moved fast, like a shark through the water, eyes wild, a hostage to his own desperation. "Stop! Don't move!" The voice rang out again. But the figure didn't listen. Instead, they hurled the object, whatever it was, toward Donald. It sailed recklessly through the air, time stretching, breath hitching like a bad crash. Everything dissolved into slow motion. Donald's instincts kicked in. He turned, shielding Claire, heart racing with a different kind of adrenaline. The crowd, frozen in disbelief, held its collective breath. The object hit the ground with a violent thud, rolling to rest, revealing a glimmering gun. Gasps filled the air, as if the world had collectively inhaled fear. The figure, now visible, wore ragged clothes that told tales of loss. It was a man, but his face, it shifted, almost familiar. Donald's visionerod. A rush of recognition swept over him. "No, it can't be!" His voice trailed off. The past slammed into him like a freight train. This wasn't just a stranger. This was someone from a life he thought he'd left behind. The crowd fluttered, whispers slicing through the tension. "Is that?" a murmur rolled. "That's Lucas, from back then." Donald felt sick. Lucas had been a brother, a part of his youth, a time of dreams before glitter turned to gold. They had drifted apart, lives spiraled into the void. And now, here he was on the edge, desperation etched deep in his features. Clutching the gun, Lucas looked directly at Donald. "You left me behind." His voice broke, raw and filled with pain. "You turned your back when I needed you most." The tension snapped. The crowd pushed back, opening a wide circle of air where the three stood. Donald, Claire, Lucas. Fear hung thick, silencing the bustling city around them. Claire's expression shifted from confusion to concern. She tightened her grip on Donald's arm, the weight of his past pressing into the present. "Who is he?" she whispered. But Donald couldn't tear his gaze away. Words lodged in his throat. This was more than a confrontation. This was a reckoning. Lucas's finger trembled on the trigger. "You thought you could climb out and forget? You forgot us, Donald! I won't let you walk away again!" The air thickened as the truth hung, ready to crash. This wasn't just a gun. It was a gateway to nightmares long buried. With every heartbeat, every stolen breath, Donald faced the reckoning of 1,000 choices. In that moment, the line between safety and danger blurred. And as the city held its breath, all eyes on them, Donald realized the past was not merely haunting him, It was here, breaking through the surface. Which path would he choose? To sink back into privilege, or dive into the chaos of redemption waiting to unfold? The streets crumbled around them. Would Claire stand by him, or turn away? Would Lucas fire, or lose himself in a moment of truth? As silence gripped the scene, the future loomed uncertain, and all watched, hearts racing, breaths still. The street held its breath. The chilly air stilled, a charged moment where time seemed to crumble. Donald's heart pounded like a drum, every beat a reminder of shadowy memories clawing for release. Claire's eyes were steady, unyielding, like a lighthouse in a storm. But then, a deafening sound cut through the silence. A loud bang echoed. A dumpster overturned, clattering like thunder. People turned, startled, eyes darting. Panic rippled through the crowd. Just a few feet away, a figure emerged from the shadows, clutching something shiny. "Get down!" A gruff voice boomed. Chaos erupted. People screamed, scattering in every direction. Donald instinctively reached for Claire, pulling her close. But in the frenzy, fear morphed into something darker. The figure moved fast, like a shark through the water, eyes wild, a hostage to his own desperation. "Stop! Don't move!" The voice rang out again. But the figure didn't listen. Instead, they hurled the object, whatever it was, toward Donald. It sailed recklessly through the air, time stretching, breath hitching like a bad crash. Everything dissolved into slow motion. Donald's instincts kicked in. He turned, shielding Claire, heart racing with a different kind of adrenaline. The crowd, frozen in disbelief, held its collective breath. The object hit the ground with a violent thud, rolling to rest, revealing a glimmering gun. Gasps filled the air, as if the world had collectively inhaled fear. The figure, now visible, wore ragged clothes that told tales of loss. It was a man, but his face, it shifted, almost familiar. Donald's vision narrowed. A rush of recognition swept over him. "No, it can't be!" His voice trailed off. The past slammed into him like a freight train. This wasn't just a stranger. This was someone from a life he thought he'd left behind. The crowd fluttered. Whispers slicing through the tension. "Is that?" A murmur rolled. "That's Lucas from back then!" Donald felt sick. Lucas had been a brother, a part of his youth, a time of dreams before glitter turned to gold. They had drifted apart, lives spiraled into the void, and now here he was, on the edge, desperation etched deep in his features. Clutching the gun, Lucas looked directly at Donald. "You left me behind!" His voice broke, raw and filled with pain. "You turned your back when I needed you most." The tension snapped. The crowd pushed back, opening a wide circle of air where the three stood. Donald, Claire, Lucas. Fear hung thick, silencing the bustling city around them. Claire's expression shifted from confusion to concern. She tightened her grip on Donald's arm, the weight of his past pressing into the present. "Who is he?" she whispered, but Donald couldn't tear his gaze away. Words lodged in his throat. This was more than a confrontation. This was a reckoning. Suddenly, the ground shook. A deep rumble surged, followed by blinding light emerging at the end of the street. A massive vehicle rolled into view. A truck with the emblem of a shadowy organization emblazoned on its side. Tires screeched to a halt, dust billowing up, a scene out of a nightmare unfurling before them. The shutters on the truck flew open, and men in dark suits jumped out, faces stern, movements sharp. Their eyes scanned the crowd, locking onto Lucas with a predatory intensity. "There he is! Get him!" one shouted, voice raised, filled with authority. Panic ignited in the crowd. People screamed, scattering again, searching for escape routes. Hearts racing. Donald's chest tightened as he faced Lucas. "What have you done?" "Run! They're after me!" Lucas shouted, fear now overwhelming desperation. He stumbled back, pointing the gun at the agents, hands shaking. "You don't understand! They'll kill us all!" Claire pulled at Donald, urgency flooding her voice. "We have to move! What's happening?" "No, wait!" Donald tried to grasp Lucas's gaze, but the man was lost in his own haze of terror. The reality of the moment crashed down like a heavy weight. Just then, Lucas turned the gun toward himself, tears glistening in his eyes. "If they want the truth, I'll give it to them. I'm done running." "Don't!" Donald lunged forward, heart racing, but the shocking pull of the trigger echoed in the chaos. Time froze, sound vanished, a flash, pain, betrayal, and a thunderous crack filled the air. Lucas fell to the ground, the gun slipping from his fingers, eyes wide in disbelief. The world collapsed around Donald and Claire, a shockwave freezing their veins. Everything spun. The agents converged, alarms blaring now, sirens drowning out every other sound. And in that moment, everything shifted. The past, secrets, and lives entwined into a web of chaos. Would they find safety amid the devastation? Or was this just the beginning of something far greater? A truth that could unravel them all. The street held its breath, city noise fading, time stretching thinner than the chill in the air. Donald's heart raced, eyes locked on Claire, searching for words that danced just out of reach. He wanted to say something, anything, but fear tangled those thoughts tighter than the scarf wrapped around his neck. Then it happened. A loud crash shattered the moment. A car careened around the corner, tires screeching, and someone shouted. All eyes turned. The scene erupted. A man stumbled into the street, clutching a bloodied hand. He was shouting, panicked, eyes wide with horror. "She's in there! Oh God, she's in there!" Confusion gripped everyone. Who was in where? The city buzzed with new energy as people rushed forward, panic infectious. Donald stepped closer to Claire, instinct driving him to protect her from whatever storm brewed. "What's happening?" he demanded, the tremor in his voice betraying his calm facade. Claire's expression shifted, the recognition sparking a new intensity in her eyes. She opened her mouth, the words clawing at her throat, but before she could speak, chaos erupted again. A young woman burst through the Starbucks door, her expression one of terror. "My sister! She's inside! Please help me!" The urgency laced her voice, cut through Donald like ice. Suddenly, she was rushing toward the crowd, desperation painted across her features. The crowd formed around the doorway. Murmurs spread, tension thickening the air. Cameras clicked, reporters scrambling for a way in. But Donald stayed glued, the secret between him and Claire pulsing like a heartbeat in the background. "What does this have to do with you?" Claire asked, her voice soft but urgent. "You've got to remember, this isn't just about us." He opened his mouth again, that ache deepening in his chest. Memories began to collide. He could almost piece together a night, the noise, the laughter, the warmth. Then empty spaces erased too quickly. But before he could grasp it, the woman by the door had collapsed. "Call an ambulance!" someone screamed, but panic turned to chaos as a heavy figure emerged from the shadows. Donald squinted through the crowd, a familiar chill running down his spine. It was his former aide, the one holding secrets, ones that could expose everything. But something was off. He wasn't there for the story. He was there for vengeance. "Get away from her!" he shouted, stepping forward without thinking. But before he could reach her, the aide revealed a glimmering blade, reflecting the glaring streetlights, slicing through the tension like butter. It was shocking, a jagged spark igniting an instinctual fear. Donald froze, heart pounding. He'd been standing on the edge of an abyss, and now he felt the ground slip. This was no longer just about life, failure, or regret. This was survival. The secret he feared all these years loomed over them, heavier than ever. Claire caught his eye, something unspoken passing between them. The aide lunged forward, a scream cutting through the chaos, piercing the night air like thunder. Claire stepped closer, instead of backing away, fear tangled with determination. "This isn't just about you," she yelled. "You don't know what you're fighting against." And just like that, Donald thought he might understand. But then, another scream. A blinding flash. Everyone turned, bodies colliding. Shouts merging into one cacophony of raw panic. What was real? Who would fall? What would this night reveal? Buried deep beneath shattered illusions, and then everything exploded in chaos. Donald's heart raced. Claire's gaze was a storm, swirling with emotions he hadn't faced in years. He opened his mouth, desperate to speak, but the words tangled up inside him. Then the unexpected happened. An explosion echoed from down the street, rattling the buildings. Glass shattered. A shriek burst into the air, silencing the city. People jumped, their faces twisted in fear and confusion. A big black SUV had crashed into a storefront, tires screeching, smoke billowing high. And then, no, it couldn't be. Out of the wreck stumbled a man, disheveled and wild-eyed. It was Keith, a name that struck like lightning against Donald's chest. His former aide. "Get down!" Keith yelled, panic spilling from him like blood. And just like that, chaos erupted. Claire stumbled back, her eyes wide terror. The crowd was in motion, a mass of bodies pushing and shoving to escape. Donald's instincts kicked in. He reached for Claire, pulling her closer, shielding her from the looming panic. "What are you doing here?" Donald shouted, focusing on Keith, who staggered toward them, fear etched across his face. "I'm not here for you." Keith wheezed, voice shaky. "They're coming. It's all a mess." "Who's coming?" The tension hung thick, but something in his gut twisted. Keith's eyes darted around, evaluating the chaos, before his focus landed on Claire. His expression soured, teeth gritted. "You shouldn't be here, not now." "What do you mean?" Claire's voice trembled, confusion mixing with anger. "What?" But Keith lashed out, pointing an accusing finger at Donald. "You think this is about politics? This is personal." Donald took a step back, heart thumping wildly. "What are you talking about?" Before Keith could answer, another car screeched to a halt, doors flinging open, shadows spilled out, men in dark suits, their faces obscured by shadows. They paid no attention to the fading chaos, but moved straight toward them, each step deliberate and menacing. "Run!" Donald shouted, adrenaline surging. He grabbed Claire's hand, ready to bolt into the fray. But Claire stood still, face pale. "No, wait, I need to know." Then the fire of recognition ignited in her eyes as she turned to Keith. "What did you do?" Keith's breathing grew ragged. "I didn't know it would come to this." Before another word could escape him, one of the suited men reached for his phone, tapping aggressively. The hum of silence buzzed like electric currents, and a message seemed to pass through the weighty air. Suddenly, a loud voice emerged, clear and steady, booming down the street. "We know who you are. Keith, you've crossed a line. This ends now." The crowd gasped, confusion mounting. The tension sharpened, and uncertainty hung heavy in the air. Everything shifted. Donald's empire, his carefully constructed image, it felt fragile now, like glass about to shatter. Claire turned to Donald, vulnerability etched on her face. Was this all about me? A chilling realization settled deep within Donald. The hidden ties between them, the past he had tried to forget. What if Claire was the key to an entirely different truth, one he couldn't escape? And just then, Keith collapsed to the ground, eyes darting around, breaths rapid and shallow. Panic surged back into the crowd as those men closed in, tension building. What was this twisted truth? What lines had been crossed? And in that moment of uncertainty, could Donald save Claire? Or would everything crumble around him, revealing a darker, deeper reality than he ever imagined? The street still held its breath. Claire's gaze didn't waver, cutting through the noise like a knife. The world around them blurred. All those rushing figures now mere shadows. But just as Donald took a shaky breath to respond, a loud crash shattered the moment. A truck barreled down the street, swerving out of nowhere. Tires screeching, a violent dance on the wet asphalt. Time slowed. People screamed. Cameras zoomed in, flashing like stars caught in a storm. Instinctively, Claire recoiled. Instincts learned from too many nights of fear. Donald lunged, reaching out without thinking, not wanting the darkness to claim her. But it wasn't Claire who moved out of the way. A small boy, no more than 7, darted in front of her. His eyes wide, terror-stricken. Donald's heart stopped. He saw the entire scene play out in horrific clarity. The boy stumbling, the truck bearing down with raw, unstoppable force. The impact was surreal. A sickening crunch echoed against the buildings. A gasp rippled through the crowd like a shocking wave. Claire screamed, and for a moment, everything stopped. Donald felt a cold sweat prick at his forehead as the boy crumpled to the ground. The world around him exploded into chaos. People rushed forward, some yelling for help, others retreating in horror. Cameras clicked, documenting everything in heartless precision. In that moment, something snapped inside him. The rich facade he wore like armor crumbled away, revealing not just a man, but a human broken and raw. It was the very thing he had tried to hide from. The truth that warmth and connection could unravel you completely. Claire was on the ground now, her hands clutching the boy, her body trembling. Her voice, usually so strong, cracked, calling out, pleading for help. "Somebody, please!" The former aide, watching from the shadows, saw the chaos unfold. A smirk curled on his lips. This was just the scandal he needed. A turning point that could not only shatter Donald's public image, but also bury him. A high-profile accident, a child, a desperate woman. It was perfect. Donald felt rage bubble within him. So easily, this was becoming a spectacle. But the boy, his face was pale, lips barely moving. He bent down, reaching out to Claire, heart pounding in panic. "It's okay. Help is coming." But as he touched the boy's shoulder, an electric jolt shot through him, like a lightning strike. A flood of memories crashed through, faces from long ago, laughter echoing in his mind, the very essence of life he had thought long forgotten. He saw Claire's eyes, filled with anxiety and fear. Something stirred deep in his chest. Then came the reveal that would alter everything. The boy glanced up, eyes suddenly sharp, locking onto Donald's. In that moment, a flicker of recognition bloomed. "Dad?" The word was barely above a whisper, but it crashed like thunder in the air. Surprise stole the breath from Donald's lungs. No, it couldn't be. He shook his head, a confused denial rising. All those years spent building walls, creating a persona. Was this where it led? What had he done in the name of success? The truth struck hard, uncovering layers that were never meant to be. The crowd gasped collectively, whispers darting around like wildfire. The hidden truth was out, and it burned. Who was this boy? How did he claim a connection Donald never knew existed? And just as Donald opened his mouth to respond, another loud crash echoed through the air, and everything fell apart once more. The past was clawing its way back, and the storm was only just beginning. The street still held its breath. Claire's gaze didn't waver, cutting through the noise like a knife. The world around them blurred, all those rushing figures now mere shadows. Just as Donald took a shaky breath to respond, another loud crash shattered the moment. A truck barreled down the street with thunderous force, tires screeching, sending bodies scattering in panic. Time slowed. People screamed. Cameras zoomed in, flashing like stars caught in a storm. Instinctively, Claire recoiled, pulling away from Donald as if the very air had turned toxic. In a single heartbeat, he reached out, desperate to shield her from the chaos. "No!" he shouted, but the sound was drowned out by the cacophony of fear erupting around them. In a horrific twist of fate, the truck slammed into a streetlight, metal crumpling in a cacophony of screams and shattered glass. Everything transformed. A frantic ripple coursed through the crowd, but in the midst of the madness, one figure emerged. A woman, hair wild, eyes darting. She rushed toward the boy lying on the ground. "Jack!" she cried, flinging herself to his side, her voice raw with desperation. "Jack, baby, please!" Donald's heart sank. He froze, the air suddenly heavy. Jack, his son. Suddenly, everything made sense and crashed to pieces all at once. The memories he had buried deep, the echoes of a life he thought were gone, rose up with breathtaking force. Just an hour ago, he had stood on the edge of his past, and now it was staring him right in the face. "Why didn't you tell me?" he whispered, standing in a daze. The moment stretched endlessly, confusion, swirling, until he couldn't tell where he ended and the world began. Claire turned to him, her eyes wide with shock. "Donald, what do you mean? You knew him?" But the woman on the ground, clinging to Jack, looked up, eyes filled with fury and sorrow. You took everything from him!" Tears streamed down her cheeks, mixing with the blood that stained her hands. "Wait! No!" Donald cried, voice breaking. I couldn't have known." But the truth bore down on him like a crushing weight. In that moment, all the careful choices, every calculated move, every smile to the cameras, crumbled away. Jack wasn't just another hidden truth. He was his blood. Another crash rang out. The agents, still pursuing Keith, turned their attention to the wreck. The chaos clashed in a distorted harmony. Shouting voices, screeching tires, the sharp scent of fear cutting through the air. The woman pressed Jack's head into her lap, frantically shaking him, calling his name again and again. "Help! Someone call for help!" Donald's instincts screamed to act, but a cold realization gripped him. Could he be the hero here? Could he be the father? The fracture between who he was and who he'd become yawned like a black hole. The memories of neglect and silence haunted him, eating away at any belief that he could save them both. Claire rushed to his side, gripping his arm. "What do we do? They're coming!" The sound of sirens wailing drew closer, sharp and insistent. The crowd surged again, but he stood paralyzed, as if the wake of his past held him captive. Would fear chain him here? Or could he find the courage to step forward? "Mom!" Jack moaned faintly, and everything fell silent for a heartbeat. The atmosphere shifted, a tension so thick it could suffocate. Time felt suspended as the woman looked up, realization dawning, eyes narrowing. In that moment, all suspicion, all anger, all love twisted into something darker. "Is this how you forget?" She spat, pointing her trembling finger at Donald. "After all this time, you just walk back into our lives? You don't get to do this!" Everything shifted. The street was not just a stage. It was a battleground. Relationships were strained, truths began unraveling, and the web of deception expanded. Claire stood beside him, but doubt seeped in. Could she trust him now? Would she stand against the tide, or slip away into the shadows? But before he could process any of it, a loud bang erupted from the back of the truck. The crowd screamed in unison, and without warning, the truck exploded, a cascade of fire, swallowing everything in its path, turning the world into a chaotic blaze. Around them, people scattered, desperation painting every face with terror. And in that inferno of uncertainty, Donald felt something ignite deep within him, a fight he didn't know he still had. What would he do now? How could he make it right when everything seemed ready to burn? Would he save Jack, or lose himself entirely in the flames. As the world turned to chaos, doubt danced around him, and the line between hero and villain blurred impossibly. The truth was no longer just buried. It was erupting, and Donald was trapped in the exploding reality of the life he had crafted, reshaping everything he thought he knew. The street still held its breath. City life morphed into a silent echo. Flames licked the air, the heat radiating. Claire knelt by Jack, and every heartbeat drummed the truth that thudded against his chest. He was not just a bystander anymore. This was his son, the piece of himself he never knew he had. His blood tied to this moment of chaos. "Help!" cried the woman, guilt-laden tears painting her cheeks. "Somebody help my baby!" She rocked Jack in her arms, the weight of fear dragging them both into an abyss. Donald felt his heart pound harder. Something primal ignited within him. He was done watching from the sidelines. As he rushed forward, someone screamed from behind, "Look out!" A rush of bodies pushed him aside. Panic surged through the gathering crowd, voices rising in unison, clamoring for sanctuary. "Get back!" A dark-suited man barked, closing in. "Clear the area!" He pulled out a radio, speaking urgently, but Donald barely heard over the ringing in his ears. "Jack!" he called out, desperation flooding his voice. "I'm here! But the world spun crazily, the flames flickering like their lives, bright yet perilously close to burning away. Everything felt surreal, as if he were trapped in a nightmare. Disconnected from reality, Donald ran to the woman, ready to grip Jack's hand. But suddenly, an explosion of sirens shattered the moment, arresting all hope in the air. In a blink, the truck erupted, sending shards of metal and smoke into the night sky. Screams morphed into sobs, panic washing over like a tidal wave. Everything blared, an orchestra of chaos, drowning out even the voice of reason. Then through the smoke came a figure. It lingered at the edge, bathed in halos of firelight, a ghost rising from the ashes. It stepped forward, eyes gleaming with an eerie familiarity. "Keith!" Donald gasped. The former aide staggered through the cloud, a harbinger of destruction. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "Surprise!" Keith grinned, wild-eyed, as if his presence was just an expected quirk in a long, unfolding drama. "Did you miss me?" Before Donald could respond, Keith reached into his jacket. Time froze. The shot ricocheted through Donald's mind. "No! Step away from Jack!" he shouted. But Keith came on like a storm. "Here's the twist." Keith's voice rose above the panic. "You've all been played. I was the puppet master all along." He pulled a device from his pocket. It glowed ominously against the backdrop of chaos. "Stop!" Claire screamed. But it was too late. The air thrummed with energy, and everything exploded into light. In that blinding instant, a revelation surged. The fire wasn't random. This catastrophe had been orchestrated. The accident? It was a bait. Keith's laughter faded into the roar, and a gut-wrenching truth grazed Donald's heart. He had been maneuvering pieces on a board without realizing. "What the hell are you doing?" Claire cried, eyes wide with disbelief. But Keith kept talking, voice echoing through the ruins. "You didn't know, did you? Jack isn't just your son. He's the key to bringing down everything. Your empire, it's built on bones, Donald. I uncovered the truth." Donald felt the earth shift beneath him. Jack, his son, was more than a revelation. Every instinct screamed to protect Claire, protect Jack. But now, clarity was racing against betrayal. The ground beneath trembled again, a new low roar building, whispers of fear washing through the crowd. An ache unfurled deep within Donald, each layer of his past unraveling. And then, as if the universe couldn't hold the weight any longer, the darkness poured out from Keith, revealing everything. No more secrets. You thought you could walk away? This is only the beginning, Donald. As the crowd screamed, confusion morphing into panic, Donald gazed at Claire, who trembled in shock. Did he believe Keith? How far did this betrayal go? With the streets roar drowned in chaos, the truth stood before him like an insurmountable wall. As the flames flickered in the night's endless sky, Donald felt the last threads of his world slip away. Nothing would ever be the same. The stage was set, and the truth was about to drop. What remained hidden would soon break free. The flames flickered and danced, casting an eerie glow on the chaos around them. Donald felt his heart race, raw emotion surging through him. The reality of Jack, his son, gripped him like a vice. Fear and guilt twisted in his chest, suffocating. "Get away!" the woman cried, clutching Jack, her face a canvas of terror. "You think you can just walk back into our lives after all this time?" "I didn't know!" Donald shouted back, desperation tightening his voice. "I didn't know he was my son!" All the pieces of his past crashed around him, a cacophony of memories, choices, and regret. Claire watched, eyes wide, torn between him and the woman who held Jack. The ground shook beneath them as explosions echoed in the distance, igniting the sky with a fiery glow. Keith, laughing maniacally, gripped the device. "This is just the beginning, Donald! You can't stop what's coming!" The air thickened with dread. The crowd gasped, eyes darting between Donald, Claire, and the terror unfolding around them. Sirens wailed closer. Panic crested like a tidal wave. "Jack!" Donald reached out, arms trembling, longing to bridge the distance. "Let me help!" But Keith stepped closer to the flames, venom dripping from his words. "You think you can play the hero now?" Claire's gaze pierced through the chaos, her voice steady. "We're not letting him do this!" She moved to shield Donald, their hands instinctively joining. They stood together, breathing through the turmoil, anchoring one another amidst the firestorm. "No!" Keith's face twisted in rage. "You're all going down!" Time stretched as Donald felt a surge of determination. "You don't control us anymore!" The flames licked at his heels, urgency igniting his every move. With a quick glance at Claire and Jack, he dashed forward, courage blazing in his heart. He yanked the device from Keith's hands, tossing it aside. It landed with a thud. And the world held its breath. Panic transformed into raw energy. The crowd surging, a wave of emotions colliding. "Get out!" Donald yelled, pushing people back as the smoke thickened. He knelt beside Jack, feeling the warmth of his son seep through the chaos. "You're gonna be okay," he murmured, cradling the boy's head in his hands. The sirens grew louder. Chaos swirled, but in that moment, he felt a flicker of hope. Police rushed in, barricades forming. But time seemed to stretch as they fought against the tide. The suited men, closed in on Keith, but he snarled, whipping around. "You'll all regret this." The officers surged forward, but Claire, finally breaking free from doubt, stepped beside Donald. "Stay down," she shouted, and they shielded Jack together. The air exploded as another flash of light erupted from behind him. Keith's laughter faded into the din. He was subdued, the tide of chaos turning, the past folding back into itself like a dark curtain. As orders filled the air, Donald turned to Claire, the spark within her returning. "We did it," she whispered, eyes glimmering, hope flickering beneath all that fear. But as the dust settled, a shadow loomed over them. Unexpectedly, the ground beneath them trembled once more. Fear crashed upon them anew. No one knew what lay next in this chaotic maze of truth and consequence. Donald caught Claire's gaze, a promise flickering between them. The world may still hold secrets, but together they could navigate the unknown. And just as the weight of uncertainty pulled them back, a voice echoed from behind, the woman holding Jack, filled with an intensity that was unmistakable. "This isn't over. The truth is still out there." With that, the connections between them pulsed, threads of fate weaving them together in a world yet unexplored. The lights flickered on the chaos, and the city buzzed anew. Would they find the strength to face another storm? Or would the shadows claim them again? And now, folks, this is your moment to become part of this journey. Don't wait even a second longer to subscribe to the channel. You have to subscribe now to catch every upcoming exclusive twist and turn in this saga. Smash that like button right now. It helps the algorithm, and you want to support this story. Flood the comments with your thoughts. What do you think will happen next? Your reactions help shape our community. Don't forget to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends. Trust me, they need to see what happens next. Let's keep the momentum going, and together we'll uncover every secret yet to unfold.